Welcome to Get Organized at Work. I'm your host, Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, healthcare leader, mom of 3, and your go-to guide for ditching the chaos and taking control of your workday. This is the show where we turn overwhelming to-do lists into clear, actionable plans so you can crush your goals and show up as your best self at work and in your life. Whether you're here for strategies to stay ahead or systems to simplify your workday, you're in the right place. Let's get organized, have some fun, and make this year your best year in your career yet. Let's dive in. Friends, welcome back to Get Organized at Work podcast. I'm Kayla, I'm your host, and today I want to talk about something that I think almost every leader experiences, but very few people actually understand or can articulate right away. Maybe you've caught yourself saying, I just feel so disorganized. Maybe you've looked around your office or your kitchen table and thought, how can I possibly stay on top of all of this? I'm a hot mess express. Maybe you've wondered why you're working harder than ever, but somehow, always, you feel like you're one step behind. That's what's interesting to me. The people who say this to me often aren't struggling. They're succeeding. They're doing great in their work. They're directors, managers, project managers, business owners, healthcare leaders, people leading cross-functional teams, people everyone depends on, people who are respected, people who get promoted, which made me start asking a different question. Why do so many high performers feel disorganized? For a long time, I did think the answer was just organization. Now, I don't anymore. I think the real answer is much bigger. I think success creates complexity, and complexity requires different systems. Think about your own career. When you first started working, your job was relatively simple. You managed your own work. You own your own projects, your own deadlines. Keeping everything in your head actually worked. Sticky notes worked, one notebook worked, your inbox worked. But then something happened. You got good at your job. People trusted you. You earned more responsibility, more accountability. Maybe you became a manager. Maybe you started leading projects. Maybe you became the person everyone called when they needed help. And quietly, your job changed. Now you're coordinating people, managing projects, following up after meetings, keeping track of your decisions, other people's decisions, working across departments, trying to remember conversations from 2 weeks ago, juggling 5 different software platforms, and strategically planning while also trying to solve today's problems. Your work didn't just increase, it became exponentially more complex. And here's what I think we rarely talk about. We celebrate growth, we celebrate promotions, and we celebrate bigger opportunities, but we rarely talk about the hidden cost of growth. Every promotion, every new responsibility, every committee, every project, every person who begins depending on you adds another layer of complexity. Not all at once, just one responsibility at a time, until one day you wake up thinking, why can't I keep up anymore? Here's the mistake I see so many leaders making. When they start feeling overwhelmed, they actually assume something is wrong with them. Can you relate? They think, well, I just need more discipline. I need to be better at time management. I need another planner. I need to wake up earlier or just work a little bit later today. I need to work harder. But what if none of those things are actually true? What if you're not actually failing? What if your leadership has simply outgrown your current system? That idea completely changed how I think about organization, because suddenly the goal isn't becoming a different person. You got to where you were because you were you. The goal is building systems that match the leader you've become. I wanted to share a story with you. A few days ago, somebody who purchased my Ultimate OneNote Hub filled out a feedback survey. Their story immediately caught my attention. They worked for the same organization for almost 20 years. Then their Active Directory account had to be recreated. They lost years of documentation, years of project history, years of notes, everything. They needed a way to rebuild quickly. Now, they could have told me they liked my notebook or that it saved them time, but instead, they wrote one sentence that completely stopped me. They said, quote, "I am working from less applications and more from a hub," end quote. I actually read that sentence several times because I realized this wasn't really about OneNote. It was about leadership. This person coordinates work across multiple departments, internal teams, external vendors, different software systems, different documentation requirements. Their challenge wasn't that they were disorganized. Their challenge was that the complexity of their work had outgrown the way they were managing it. And what they built wasn't just a notebook. They built a home, one place where their thinking lived, one place where projects came together, one place where information connected. Everything else became a place to share the work, not manage it. That is a completely different way of thinking. As I reflected on this survey response, I realized something. I've spent years teaching organization, but I don't think organization is actually the goal. It's clarity. Clarity is the goal because organized people can still feel overwhelmed, but clear leaders make better decisions. Clear leaders know what matters. Clear leaders spend less time searching. Clear leaders follow through. Clear leaders create space to think instead of constantly reacting, right? We talk about this idea of building capacity and space for yourself to actually think with these systems. So the software isn't the point. The planner doesn't matter. The notebook isn't the point. The point is creating a system that allows your brain to stop carrying everything. So it has space to do what it's meant for, which is think. And we all know the saying, what got you here won't get you there. And that might be one of the biggest leadership lessons we have to learn for ourselves. But the habits that made you successful aren't often the habits that sustain you as your leadership grows. You have to develop new and different ones. That sentence has been something I've been thinking about for weeks as I continue to grow in my leadership and help others build systems to help them do the same thing. Habits that got you promoted aren't necessarily the habits that help you lead at the next level. Leadership growth naturally creates complexity, and complexity demands intentional systems. Not because you're failing, but because you're grown. You're at the next level. So over the next several weeks on the podcast, I want to unpack something I've been building and refining for years. And I've come to believe leadership isn't one skill. It's really 5 systems working together. How you manage information, how you manage projects, how you manage tasks, how you lead and manage people, and how you intentionally create space to think strategically. So we're going to explore each one of these together, not because I want you to become more proactive, but because I want you to experience what happens when your systems are fully functioning and support the complexity of where you're at in your leadership. So this week, I want to leave you with one question. Next time you catch yourself saying, "Oh, I don't know how I can handle this. I'm so disorganized. I'm all over the place," pause. Instead, ask yourself, has my leadership outgrown my current system? Because if the answer is yes, that's actually really good news. It means you're growing. It means you've earned more responsibility. It means you're becoming the leader that people depend on. And it means you don't need to become somebody different. You need systems that are capable of supporting the leader you've already become. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with another leader who always seems to be carrying way too much in their head. And make sure you're subscribed because next week, we're going to deep dive into the first of the 5 leadership systems and explore why your task list isn't actually the best place to start. Everything that I talk about referencing the OneNote Hub or my podcast community is all linked in the show notes. If you're like, hey, I want to build these systems, I want to see what they are, I want to practice with you, go ahead and check out our community. It's awesome. I talked about in last week's episode, I just set up brand new onboarding workflow. I'm getting feedback on it from new members in the group and past members who are going through it for the first time, who've been present for a while. And I've gotten really good feedback so far, and people are able to complete that welcome checklist within a week and start on like a 30-day journey with us refining one of these 5 systems. So if you're like, okay, cool, I don't want to wait for every week for this pod to come out. I just want to get started, see what I can do. Check out 2 things in the show notes. One is our leadership operating system audit. It's free. It's going to tell you which system you want to start with. And then come inside our community. I'll also link that. And that's where you can do our onboarding system. And you can practice with us every week outside of the podcast. All right. Thank you so much for being with me, for listening. Remember, success creates complexity. Complexity requires intentional systems, and intentional systems create that capacity and your clarity to lead. All right. I'll see you next time with this episode and hopefully inside the community. Take care. Bye.